What's up, everybody? Hope everybody had a good week. I did. I had an awesome week. I'm going to try to let everybody get in. Give them a few moments. I'll get all my stuff and notes ready. Hey, Tom. How's it going? You're going to enjoy tonight's show. It was your idea. Hey, John. Greetings, beautiful friends. Oh, you're cool, John. I'm hot. Am I shiny? Do I need a makeup? Need a makeup lady to come in and do a little dabbing? First, I have to hire a makeup lady who will work for free. Don't think there's many of those out there. You did, Tom. You were the first one in. Not many people beat John, but you beat him tonight. Tom was waiting tonight. It was his idea to do this show. The topic that we're doing tonight, it was his idea. So I hope you guys have had a good week. Tom, how are you feeling? Are you back ship shape? What is on my shoulder? Piece of lint on my shoulder. Except Johnny. Yeah, I'm usually first. You have to be pretty quick to beat me. See how I'm the one that pushes the go live button. Doing well. Awesome, Tom. I'm glad. I know you've been through it medically. Is it just going to be me, Tom, and John tonight? I know Donna messaged me earlier and said that she couldn't make it tonight, that she had an early day tomorrow, so she had to get some sleep. Y'all go and invite. Only beat me because I'm driving. There you go. One of my favorite old gospel songs is called Excuses, Excuses. Let's see. Go invite some folks. I know Leanne's not going to be on tonight because she is doing her own show for her business. Oh man, now I got to go back and find that. But it's right here. I didn't think about that. Come in. One more and that's it, because you're not supposed to have this.
So good though.
I know, but you're not supposed to have it though, because of your tummy.
I know.
Here, that's all. You can't have no more. Hey Barry, welcome back. Just crossed the Alabama-Tennessee line. Did you cross the Alabama-Tennessee line going to Alabama, or did you cross the Alabama-Tennessee line going to Tennessee? Hey Melissa. Cool, I'm glad you made it tonight. This is going to be an awesome show, y'all. Last week we did demons. We spoke pretty intensively on demons. And there were a lot of questions asked about classifications and levels and stuff like that. Well, then one of the CAPI fans said that they wanted to know more about voodoo. So whenever they said that, I said, okay, well, let's hold off on the rest of the demons, on the classification of demons, because that'll segue into voodoo or voodoo, is what I like to call it, because it was misnamed in the 1800s. But anyway, we'll get to that. So tonight we're going to talk about voodoo as it's known, going into Tennessee. Okay, John, well, be careful, buddy. And we're going to start it off with some of the levels and classifications of demons that we did not talk about last week. And then we're going to segue that into voodoo. And I have a pretty extensive evening. We'll probably go a little over tonight. Into this subject because it's pretty vast. So, hey, Katie, she's here. I think the origin is from Haiti. That's what a lot of people think, Tom, that it did originate in the Caribbean, in the Caribbeans, but it actually did not, believe it or not. It actually is one of, if not the oldest religion known. It was centuries and centuries and centuries ago in the country of Africa. Hello, evening, y'all. That sounds good to me, Katie. Actually, that pretty much how people around here talk. Hello, evening, y'all. I used to know an old man who said that he was pretty old too back then. I'm sure he's passed on now, but he was probably in his 70s, and this was 30 plus years ago. But he used to say that he got tired of people when he would ask them how they are. When people his age, he would go to people his age and ask them how they are. They'd have this long list of things that was wrong with them, and so he said he started telling people whenever he would greet them, he'd say, "Hey, how are you? Feeling fine?" So they wouldn't go on this torrent of medical issues. You said it before I could type it. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did. It actually originated voodoo actually originated in Western Africa, and we're going to talk about that and how it got here. It went from Africa to the Caribbean, to Brazil, Brazil to America. Yeah, it was crazy. We actually brought it in, and then we got really scared of it. And so we changed it around. It's also not an evil religion like a lot of people think. We did that too. We changed it around. We do that a lot. When I say we, I mean Westerners. But it's mostly the Catholic Church that did a lot of the damage to voodoo. Exhausted and delusional. I'm sorry, Katie. I've been following your Facebook because it keeps popping up, and you've been doing a lot of softball, haven't you? I mean, you're not doing softball, but your daughter is, but it's exhausting for the parents too, because they get, especially if you was like me, whenever mine were in softball, I get very vocal, very animated at games. I've actually been thrown out of parks before. So yeah, it can be exhausting for the parent just as much as the child. Well, we have 6 people now. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Y'all want to go ahead and get started? We have the bunch of the crew here. We have Katie and Melissa and John and Tom. Our new friend Barry is here. I wouldn't miss anybody when I said that because I would sob. But Donna's not making it tonight for everybody that wasn't on earlier. Donna said that she has got a very early day tomorrow. And so she's not going to make it tonight. She had to get some sleep. So, yes, we started at 8 a.m. and just got home. Bless your heart. I remember those days. Oh my gosh, I remember those days. I remember those days. See, at least you only have two doing stuff. That doesn't make it any better for you, I know. But I had at one time, we had two doing baseball, two doing softball, two doing pageants, three doing modeling and auditions and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. It got pretty nuts, and I was very involved. I was that parent that got really involved with that stuff. Got emotional. Took it too serious a lot of times. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Y'all remember last week we were talking about demons, and it got to a point. I think we pretty much covered a lot of that, a lot of the stuff that we wanted to on demons, but it did get to a point where we wanted to talk about the classifications and levels and stuff like that. And then I believe it was Tom said he wanted to, whenever we said what was the next show going to be about, I believe it was Tom, if I'm not mistaken, it was Tom. It said something about voodoo. And so that's when as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, let's stop here. Because that's one of my favorite subjects. I love voodoo. It's something that I was very fascinated about. One of my heroes, of course, was Maria Laveau. Maria Laveau, and you'll see why when we get to that section, but Maria Laveau was to voodoo as Johnny Rushing is to the paranormal. Y'all know that my biggest passion is to show people the real paranormal, not what Hollywood and the church and old Southern folklore makes it out to be. And that's what Maria Laveau wanted for voodoo. She wanted to show people what it really was instead of what they made it out to be. The only difference is most of the time paranormal is misjudged and misquoted and misshown in general because of the media and Hollywood and wanting to make money and all this stuff. As soon as people started jumping on the paranormal bandwagon, the media and Hollywood and television just jumped all over it and said, you know, we can make a lot of money off this. And so that's where it went. That's the direction it took. And so there was a lot of us that, and I say us because I'm not the only person that believes in traditional paranormal. There are other teams. There are other people. I meet new people all the time. We just recently had a case in, where was it? Gulf Shores, Alabama, I believe it was. And we were unable to get there in time, so I found another team. And what I did was I talked to several teams and I vetted them. And then I found one that shared a lot of our same views. And so I sent them down to that client. And it turned out the founder of that team has a lot of the same views on the paranormal that I do. And that was the reason why I chose that team to go down and take care of that. So I'm meeting them all the time. And that was just here recent, just a few weeks ago. So if CAPI can't get to them, we will do our best to get somebody else to them. But before we do that, we will vet them. I told her if I couldn't find anyone, if I couldn't vet them and then find anyone suitable, then we would just have to make it happen. We just have to bite our lips and make it happen. So it was a situation to where it needed to be done quick. So because it was bothering them quite a bit. What is this? There are many times Nathan will tell me to take anxiety medicine and duct tape my mouth shut so I don't get kicked out. Yes, I am that parent. I was too, darling. I was too. I should have had anxiety pills with me, and I definitely needed the duct tape. That's a fact. Um, yeah, most of the blues didn't like me, not one bit. Um, Whenever I hollered blue, it was usually preceded or followed by something very nasty. So I did compliment them sometimes whenever they did well, though, but that wasn't very often that I was talking to a blue in a positive, non-negative way. But so I feel you. I know exactly how you feel there. Uh, so, but there are still a lot of us that want the paranormal to be shown in a positive light, and that's what our goal is. And Maria Laveau was the same way with Vodou. She she wanted it shown in its true form that it was meant to be. As it, she wanted it so much so that she even found a way to live longer than everybody else. We'll get into that. And she also tried to tie it to the Catholic Church because she was a devout Catholic, um, which a lot of people do not know. But no matter what Maria Laveau did or what her schedule was or whatever, she always made it to Mass every single day. She's featured in American Horror Story, played Kathy Bates. Is she really? I haven't seen American Horror Story. I don't watch those things, but I didn't know that. Kathy Bates is Maria Laveau. I would never. I don't think the casting agent did very well on that one. Or she may have. Kathy Bates is a good actress, but I'm not so sure I would choose Kathy Bates as my Maria Laveau. Who needs homes when you have softball moms? Thank you. That's right. I agree 100%. Yep, I saw that. She was awful. Was she really awful? I don't want to see it then because I like Kathy Bates and I don't want to see her in a bad movie. The Real Woman. No, she may have been portrayed as awful. She has been portrayed as awful, but she was not an awful person, believe me. Hello, William Bennett. She most certainly was not an awful person. She actually did a lot of charity work. But anyway, let's get into this. Where we left off last week was some of our. I put my specs on, y'all, as y'all can see, so I can see. My eyes are getting worse and worse, and when I try to read my tablet phone or notes, and I got a bunch of notes tonight, so you'll see all my notes and notes for days. So woman on that side too. So, because this is something that really touched me, I wanted to really delve into this because of that reason. Because I want it to be shown as the real. I want it to be shown as voodoo, not voodoo, basically. And you'll see what I'm talking about there. But voodoo originated in Western Africa. It went from there to the Caribbean and there to Brazil. And then made its way to the U.S. Vodou, spelled Vodoe, is the original name of it. I think it's Coven. You think what is Coven? Coven. Everybody say that. Basically, Vodou means spirit, and that's in Fawn, a language in West Africa. And it was brought to the Americas by the slaves. Even though they tried their best to, the biggest issue that most people have with paranormal and even voodoo is knowledge and not researching. Thank you, Tom. That's exactly, you hit the nail right on the head right there with that one. That's the one that went into Jacques' space. Y'all know what I'm talking about there in a minute. But you hammered the nail that went into his face. You sure did with that, because that's 100% true. We do that as a people. We talked about the Salem witch trials. We talked about religion, and if you took all the religions and put them in one room together, you took 5 people from every religion on earth and put them in the one room together, they would fight amongst themselves so much that you'd probably have a bath in there, much like a Stephen King movie. Um, so we, and it's because they don't understand. That's all it is. It's just because they don't understand what they're talking about. They don't understand what's being done, and if it's not normal to them, if it's paranormal to them, if it's out of the ordinary from the way they worship or the way they believe or the way they present politics, it's it's if it's foreign to them, then they're afraid of it, and whatever they're afraid of, they try to dismiss and ban and outlaw and evilize. So, I'm not going to go over all of the demons. I hope there's at least one person out there that knows that if I went over all of the demons, that would be our show tonight and probably a couple of nights after tonight. I'm just going to kind of touch on a few of them to kind of show you guys how the levels went, how it kind of, the classifications basically. So I thought what we would do is we'd look at the 7 deadly sins and who was assigned to those. But we're also going to touch on different attributes of demons as far as fate and familiars and druids and Kimians and stuff like that. So maybe not so much on the Kimians, but because that's another time magnet there, big time. I always try to give you research. So if you guys want to, kind of delve into this, you can. John Wycliffe did a classification of demons for the 7 deadly sins and the lantern of light. So if you want to look that up, the lantern of light by John Wycliffe, you can kind of delve into where he went with it. Now I'm gonna let you know he's kind of a nut, so he kind of went kind of weird with it. John Taylor, if y'all remember him as the water poet, you can Google him as well. John Taylor, normal Western spelling. The water poet. Look him up and see some of his poetry. Both of them were. If you do look up John Taylor, you'll see that he had a kind of a warped sense of existence, belief of existence. But of course, we have pride. The demon Lucifer was assigned to that. Beelzebub was gluttony. Satan was wrath. And I'm just going to go through these and then we'll kind of talk about the classifications. Leviathan was envy. Mammon was greed. Belphegor was sloth. And Asmodeus was lust. Sorry, I lost my page. I lost my spot. Get back down here. There we go. I read those off to you guys just to show you. I mean, just to kind of give you an idea of two things. One, and we're going to get into the spectre and the possessions and all that stuff as well. But one reason is because I wanted to show you guys that the different names. Did y'all notice those names? Let me go back to that. The different names. Let's see. Lucifer was pride. Mammon was greed. Asmodeus was lust. Leviathan was envy. Beelzebub was gluttony. Satan was wrath, obviously, and Belphegor was sloth. You notice how the names in there were attributed, all to Satan. Satan at one time or another has been called all of those names, right? Remember when Jesus stepped into the garden and talked to the possessed man, and he asked him, he demanded to know the demon's name, because Jesus was the man and he knew what to do. And the guy says, "We are legion, for we are many." Um, does that mean that Jesus, that Satan said, "Well, we need to get all the demons together at once and put them into this one guy to face Jesus, because Jesus is Jesus. We can't just send a couple of..." No, absolutely not. That's not what was going on there. Remember, at the end of the day, whether the devil is very non-humble. He thinks he's going to win every time, even when he tempted Jesus, Um, but um, but know this: whenever there's a classification of a sin, or excuse me, whenever there's an appointment of a sin, there has to be a demon to go with that sin. See what I'm saying? So if let's say Mammon was greed and Asmodeus was lust, then if this person allows greed and lust and pride and envy and gluttony and wrath and sloth or laziness, into their life, then those are the multitudes of the demons that are going to be with that person. See, um, even King James classified the demons to different uh, appointments of sins. So that's the only reason there's classifications. Doesn't mean one demon is more powerful than the other. Doesn't mean there's different levels there. It's just that demon. And there's even a whole train of thought that, and I'm gonna get to your comments. Just give me a second. But there's even a very popular hypothesis that says that demons aren't actual beings. They aren't actual monsters or actual children of the devil or whatever you want to call them. They are the manifestation of those sins. I hope you guys are following me. They're if Satan wants to propose envy to someone, then that's the demon he would send. Metaphorically, that's just the sin that he would, propose upon that individual to get them to sin, so that they can't be, everlasting, and then they'll be his instead of God's. And I know the first thing that people want to say whenever they hear that, because it's the first thing I said, is, well, if some people have seen a demon, which I've seen a demon, then how can demons be metaphors of sins, not actual beings? Well, if someone says this guy's possessed by the demon of because he's on drugs, or this guy's possessed by demons because he's, he killed people, he's a mass murderer, or serial killer, or whatever the thing, or this person is because, he's this very rich person is possessed by a demon because he's very prideful about himself and what he has, and very boastful. That's what I'm talking about whenever I say the metaphor of sins. The demons are the metaphors of sins. Demons do exist, but do we have to put a demon of gluttony with every overweight person? Do we have to put a demon of sloth or laziness in the heart of every person that is, just lazy and, good for nothing? No, we don't. That's just the metaphor of that sin. That demon is in control of that sin. So the demons do exist, but just because that person is committing that sin, or because that person is raffled with different types of ill behavior or whatever, doesn't mean that they are possessed by all these demons. You see what I'm saying? So don't think that demons can possess, of course, and I think we even talk about that. Yeah, we do. Used to describe spirits that enter, possession demons used to describe spirits that enter inwardly into a person to trouble them. Fairies used to describe spirits that prophecy. consort and transport. I think there was another one, oppression, used to describe spirits that follow upon certain people to outwardly trouble them at various times of the day. Spectra, spirits that trouble houses or solitary places. So you see, that's the different levels there: spectra, oppression, possession, and fairy. And for each classification or each demon, there's also an oppressor, of course, or an opposer, I guess you would call it, not an impressor, because they're not trying to impress or suppress them. They're trying to oppose their beliefs. Beelzebub's, of course, was Saint Francis of Assisi. Saint Peter had Leviathan. Asmodeus was Saint John the Baptist. Breath, which was the prince of Cherubim, was Saint Barnabas, and the list just goes on and on. And you guys get into that, the hierarchy, the first hierarchy of the demons, including the angels that oppose them, is one of those that's super, super long. So you guys just go into demonology and look up the first hierarchy, and it'll give you those different classifications. Another book I want you guys to check out, it's, if you can probably Google it as well, find it. But Sebastian Michaels wrote Admirable History. Check that one out. It is said that he was, Sebastian Michaels was, it's actually Michaelis, but I always say Michaels. It's Michaelis. Look him up and get Admirable History. That is, now the claim is that he wrote that as a memoir of an actual exorcism. He was exorcising a nun, believe it or not. That's his claim. And there was stuff that was told to him by Berith. That's the name of the demon. That was told to him during that exorcism that he put in his memoirs, and then that was adapted into Admirable History. So y'all check that one out too. I think it was, don't hold me to this part because it doesn't say here, but I think it was in the 1600s. So, but that'll help you find it. But y'all see where I'm going? The different levels of demons. There's no such thing as a level, or I mean, in the first hierarchy, there's classifications, and I guess, the demons, the angels that followed Beelzebub down, to the earth, I'm sure would be the council, the Hell's Council, but the demons were their minions, if you will. And which I'll get into that, get into the first and second hierarchy of demonology. And if you want to, keep going with it because it goes on, third, fourth. If you want to get into that, and if you want to get into classifications as far as by office and that, then please do, because but it goes on and on and on and on and on. It would take us literally forever. But the point I wanted to make with this is that just there's not a demon accompanying someone, if you will, whether it be possession or just sitting on their shoulder, that has a problem, that has it's breaking one of the 7 deadly sins, or it's doing whatever it's doing. There's not a demon that's attached to that person. There's a demon attached to that sin. Okay, so just because the person's doing it doesn't mean there's a buttload of demons floating around in there. It just means that there's, and I'm not saying this right tonight. I don't know why, but I'm not having a good night. But and I hope you guys are following me. But there's not a demon assigned to that person. There's a demon assigned to that sin. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So go through it, do your research on it, do the first, second, and third hierarchy of demonology. Do that, and definitely check out Michaelis, and some of his work, and John Taylor, the poet John Taylor, and check out some of his work too, because some of that stuff is pretty fast. Each one of them have branches that go in so many different directions. So when it comes to demonology, it's super, super crazy. But the segue I wanted to use, and if I haven't answered everyone's questions, or if I made it even more difficult for you, please tell me. Let's see what we're saying. Oh, the Coven. That's the name of it. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying, John. I can't believe they cast Kathy Bates to play Marie Laveau. So there's named demon for depression or addiction. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, there is. There is a demon for those afflictions or those sins or those whatever you want to call them. But there's not a demon for those people, is what I'm saying. Okay. There's not a demon per sin, so you can't walk around. If you could see demons, you wouldn't see like 6 on this guy's shoulder, 4 on this one, 3 on his head, and 6 on his back. The demon's possession would not be necessary for those sins to be, carried on by that individual. All right. So I hope I said that in a way that, you would understand it. And the reason I threw in the oppressors, because that kind of segues into Vodou. Vodou, they believe in a single God, but they believe in many different ways to obtain that God. And in doing so, there are several gods, and there's a God for everything. So to them, St. Peter or Bartholomew or John the Baptist would be their levels of gods. Okay, that their belief, that they would have a God for this, for money. They would have a God for love. They would have a God for happiness. They would have a God for freedom. They would have a God for peace. They would have a God for forgiveness. They would have a God for health, so on and so on and so on. Okay. But it all falls into their belief of a single entity. All right. So, like I said, it originated in Africa, in West Africa. It did make its way to the Caribbean and Brazil, and then to the U.S., and it made its way to the U.S. via the slaves. And they tried their best not to. Actually, the sellers, the blacks and the whites were at. I'm not going to start no debate on slavery here. Please do not take it that way. But slavery doesn't just involve the white people, okay, of the time. It involved blacks and whites. All right, and French, white French. White people didn't sell the slaves in Africa. Black people did. All right. So they sold them, and they would make them do stuff like walk around the tree of history, I believe it's called. They'd make them walk around it all day, sometimes all day, all night, just walk around it, and that was supposed to erase their memories. I don't know why they thought that, but they did. It's actually part of Vodou that they believed that tree, if you walked around it, your memories would slowly fade, and so they did that so that they wouldn't carry some of those beliefs to the Americas and to Brazil and to the Caribbeans and everywhere that the slaves went. But they didn't forget. They held tight to their beliefs. They held tight to their religions. They held tight to their families and their The ones that survived, like a third of them died in transit um, because of the conditions. But they kept true to their faith and kept true to themselves. Um, there's a lot of Catholicism in Vodo. Um, it kind of derives from that on both ends, on the African end and the American end, more so on the America ends. Uh, and the reason being is because how not only the whites, I'm going to say the slave runners, I'll say that, because it wasn't just whites, but not only because of them, but because of the practitioners of Vodo too. Um, and I'll get into voodoo as we go. But it did. I don't want to say it. It did derive from a lot of the Catholicism beliefs. Um, and I said earlier, if you took all of the religions and put them all in one room, took 5 people from every religion and put them in one room, Katie bar the door and get away, because it's going to be a bloodbath. You know that they're going to kill each other. Protestants are going to be fighting Catholics. Catholics are going to be fighting Judaisms. Judaisms are going to be fighting Islams. Islams are going to definitely be fighting Baptists. Baptists are definitely going to be fighting Church of Latter-day Saints. I mean, it would be crazy. It'd be a heyday. But now take a couple of people from voodoo, traditional voodoo, and put them in there. All those other religions would band together. They would come together and say, hey, whoa, let's stop fighting. Everybody who's still alive, come together. Now let's fight against this one because they're evil. All right. And they weren't. Voodoo was not an evil religion. All right. We made it that way. All right. Out of fear, out of lack of knowledge, out of ignorance to the culture, we made it that way. All right. I lost my place. I'm sorry. Okay, banned against it. If you're going to talk about voodoo in the Americas, then as it came to America, a lot of stuff happened, and as we go through, you'll see what the different rules and regulations and laws and all the stuff that was made just to protect the at this point the whites, because this was in the Americas, not just to protect them and but their way of life, their what they were used to. But we have to bring up New Orleans because that's where it originated. And if we're going to talk about voodoo in the Americas, we have to talk about voodoo where it originated in New Orleans. And if we talk about New Orleans voodoo, then we got to talk about my girl, Maria Laveau. She was a Louisiana Creole voodoo queen. She was born September 10th, 1801, in New Orleans, French Quarter. She was born Maria Laveau. She was only married one time, and that's kind of weird. This was before she started she was still a voodoo practitioner, but this was before she became super famous as a voodoo queen. But she was married. She married Jacques Santiago Paris on August 4th, 1819. August 4th, 1820, 1 year to the day after they were married, old Jacques disappeared, never to be seen again. Was never found. His body was never found. He was never found. No trace of him was ever found. Nothing. Soon after he died, Marie Laveau started referring to herself as the widow Paris. So, I don't know. Maybe to give herself a title. I don't know. But there is a lot of speculation that there may have been something that happened there. Some people believe that Jacques Santiago Paris may have struck Maria Laveau. And if anyone knows anything about Maria Laveau, that's not the thing to do to her. Let me see. I'm going to keep up with y'all's comments as we go. Like Santeria, yes, 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 yes. Nola and Savannah points. Slave trade entry. Yes, yes, they were, John, or Tom. Um, but the religion of voodoo did originate for voodoo, and I say the religion. When y'all have to realize, if I say voodoo, that's the original. That is what voodoo is. That's what it is. It was changed to voodoo because we change everything that we don't agree with. Okay, we change everything that we don't like. Basically, we'll change it up. Right? If it doesn't sound right to us, then we change it. And a lot of stuff is called names now because of the way we pronounced it, because of the way we perceived it. So yeah. But if I say voodoo, I'm talking about American. In the Americas. It's still more prominent today in Haiti, and throughout the Caribbean, but it's still very prominent in Haiti, and it's been tied to politicians, wars, everything. So thankfully not here, but I was just Jacques Santiago Paris. Yeah, I've always just found it very interesting that they were married August 4th, 1819. August 4th, 1820, Jacques comes up missing. Nobody knows where he's at. And they never found him. They never found his body or anything. But soon after that, Laveau started calling herself the Widow Paris. At this time, Maria Laveau was actually working as a hairdresser, and she was a very good hairdresser. Young, old, rich, poor, everybody came to Marie Laveau to get their hair done. And they paid her very well for it. And she charged people what they could afford. So if you come in to get a haircut, you're a man and you come in to get a haircut and you're super rich, she may charge you, in that time, she may charge you $1, which was very expensive in that place and time. Whereas if you're, it may be 2 pence if you were, a poor person, something like that. So, let's see and they also sought her counsel whenever they found out, because they would come to her to get their hair done, because she was basically a cosmetologist. What my wife does in this room. That's basically what she was. She was a hairdresser, and that's what she did for a living. But she also counseled people, and that got out. People started talking about that. They started talking about correct. Okay. The people started talking about, hey, this hairdresser down here, man, she's like a fortune teller or something. She's kind of like into voodoo, and she's like really cool, and she'll tell you stuff and all that stuff, blah blah blah, and all this. And so people started coming to her, and they started paying her very handsomely. So that's whenever she went back to Maria Laveau. She made ambulance. She made trinkets and stuff like that. And people would pay, the rich would pay very handsomely for some of these amulets that she would make. And they were actually making another funny thing about her. She sold these amulets for like $5-6. Man, that was a lot of money. That's like, $100 now. She sold them, and they were actually made out of gunpowder and dog dung. Dried dog poop. I always thought that was funny. But people paid her a lot of money for this stuff, and she really raked it in and was going with it. She was a practitioner of voodoo. She was a devout Catholic. Like I said earlier, she attended mass every single day. Some felt that she was attempting to combine the two religions to make voodoo more appealing to the whites. Another misconception about Laveau was that she was evil. She wasn't evil. She was very, very, very kind. She was an advocate for the for the poor and the less fortunate. Um, she counseled to you if you were young, old, rich, poor, whatever. She didn't mind. White, black, she didn't care. She didn't see colors or religions. She saw people, and she counseled to them. And people came to her and asked for favors and wishes and potions and ambulance made out of dog poo, and she did it. And she was always there. She was a very big advocate for feeding the hungry and the homeless. Uh, in 1852, she this is one of the more interesting things that she. In 1852, she had a couple of friends of hers that were in jail. They were in jail. It's set, and I don't know because I didn't follow the case study on this, but I did follow what she did. Um, and I used to know their names, and I can't think of their names. I have to look that up, and I'll get back to you. But there was two gentlemen that were friends of Marie Laveau, and she felt, along with a lot of other people, whites and blacks, um, that they were wrongly accused for murder. They were in jail for murder, set to be hung, and she felt that it was. Hi, Todd. I just saw you pop in. Hi, we she. I don't know what that means, but hi, Todd. We're talking about voodoo tonight. Um, but in 1852, she kept going to this jail and visiting these two guys, and it wasn't out of the norm for her to do that. She did a lot of jail visits and a lot of jail. She would go and speak to the prisoners. If they practiced voodoo, she would pray with them with voodoo. If they practiced Catholicism, then she would she was their Catholic connection. Um, but with these two men, she would go to them and counsel them and talk to them. And it was said that other prisoners heard them ask her to please help them escape their fate. And they all took it as that Marie Laveau was going to make a potion to melt the walls or the bars or something like that, so the guys could escape their fate for their wrongful accusations of murder. Um, Marie Laveau did not do that. She did not do anything to get them out of jail or anything like that. She was an advocate for them, and she spoke against their charges, but she didn't do anything to try to free them from the jail and get in trouble herself or whatever. But she did tell them that she would help them. She said, "I would help you, and I will make sure that you escape this punishment." And so the day that they were hung, I do not know a date on that. I'm going to get that for you too. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to find a date, an exact date on this. But I was able to find very little information about it, as a matter of fact. But I knew about it before, and whenever I was doing the research, I wanted to look it up. But the day of their execution, she was there, and they said that just as they put the nooses around their necks and tied their hands behind their backs, that the sky grew dark and ominous, and rain, thunder, lightning. It was just horrible. And because of the heinousness of the crime, they continued on. They didn't care. They're like, "You don't want to watch, go home." But we're still going to kill these guys. So they pull the lever, trap doors open, guys drop. As soon as the rope is taut, the two men gently slide out of their nooses and fall to the ground, escaping their death. Some people say it was Marie Laveau. Some people say it was just an accident, but they were reprieved. They didn't kill them. They said, "We tried it, it didn't work." So at the time, Louisiana law said that if they try to kill someone, either by firing squad or hanging, and they don't, they miss whatever, or it doesn't kill them or whatever, they survive the execution somehow, then there's a retrial and all this. Well, ultimately the guys they got off. They didn't. They had another trial, and they found out they were not guilty, and blah blah blah. So they didn't die that day. And some people said that it was Maria Laveau that did it. Who knows? But because of this incident, uh, Louisiana ended public executions forever. They said no more public executions. We're never doing it again because of that incident. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. So, did she have those powers? Who knows? You know, I personally don't believe she did. There's a lot of possibilities with the storm and the lightning and the electricity and the wetness of the ropes. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could have played into that because there was a storm. But because Maria Laveau knew these men and counseled to them and told them that she would help them, it just went straight to she did it. She got them out with her magical powers. So yeah, who knows? We keep up with this guy, this stuff here. I was wrong. Kathy Bates played Madame Dauphine. Oh, okay, cool. Come in.
That made me cry.
Uh-oh.
Do you see those tears?
Yes. Is Mom home yet? Okay. Sorry about that, yeah. She wants to come in so bad, but I won't let her tonight because she doesn't need to. I don't want her. This is one of the subjects that she doesn't. There's no reason for her to know anything about voodoo. Exit times 2. Yeah, right. Yeah, so I mean, who knows? Who knows? She did say she would help them, and that's how it turned out. But after that incident, Louisiana did ban public executions. But around about this time, something else was happening to Maria Laveau. She was getting old, and she was unable to continue her duties as Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. She had 4 kids, 2 daughters, and there are some belief that she actually did not have 4 kids; that she only had 3 kids. As she was getting older, and she wasn't going to be able to continue her reign as the Voodoo Queen, wasn't going to be able to continue being what she was. She went to her youngest. Well, here's what I believe and what most likely happened. She went to her youngest daughter and said, "Hey, I want you. You know everything about what I do. You've been practicing it all your life as well. You're a voodoo queen just as much as I am. You're a voodoo princess, but I want you to be a voodoo queen, and I want you to take over. And I actually want you to take over in aspects of me. I want you to be me." Basically, is what she was saying. I understand if you do. If you're not already asleep. But I'll give you the version of the story that most likely happened, and then I'll tell you what the myth is. Is that a good way to do that? I think so. Because the myth is more interesting than what probably happened. But the story goes, she was getting old. She knew it. She wasn't going to be able to continue doing what she was doing to the expectations of her followers and all this. So she went to her youngest daughter. There's a lot of speculations on what her youngest daughter's name was, so I just said I'll just go with what it is. And that when she died, but she went to her daughter. She says, "I want you to be me. Basically, I want you to take my name. I want you to take my church. I want you to take all my stuff. I want you to be Maria Laveau, and I want you to continue this." And that's what she did. She said, "Okay, I will." And she continued it. And she wasn't quite as nice as her mom, but you guys can, that kind of goes against voodoo, so I'm not going to get into it. But look up Maria Laveau II, and you'll see she was kind of a little bit. Her mom was good, but she was not so great. But yeah, go check Maria Laveau II out, and you'll see what I mean. That she wasn't so great. But okay, now here's the conspiracy theory version of that story. Maria Laveau realized that she was getting old and that she wasn't going to be able to continue her her reign as the queen, and so she did a potion to make herself younger so that she could live another lifetime. and continued, and that there was Maria Laveau. The second was actually still just Maria Laveau. So make up your own mind on that. She did die. She has a grave. It gets me. It's kind of funny. Um, you know how there's conspiracy theorists on UFOs, right? Um, well, most UFOs, most UFO believers, these not just UFO believers, because I kind of believe that there's something out there too, but I mean the conspiracy theory part of it, the ones that say the government is hiding all this and that the president knows and Secret Service and blah blah blah, blah whatever. But they'll tell you quickly that UFOs do exist and that they've seen footage on NASA's broadcast. You know, NASA 24 hours a day, 7 days a week broadcasts a camera off of the ISS and off the shuttle when it's going up, and when it used to go up, excuse me. But they say that they're always filming, and so people have seen objects, you know, like the what is it, the Black Knight, I think it is, which turned out to be space junk. But people see stuff all the time. Those same people will tell you that we never been to the moon, that we never landed on the moon, and that the space program is a hoax, and that we actually can't pass through the radiance block, the what is it called, the magnetic field around the Earth because of radiance and radiation and stuff like that. That we can't do. We can go around it and everything. And plus, even if we went through it, it wouldn't hurt us. The small amount that they're exposed to for just a few hours wouldn't hurt them. But anyway, another time, another story. But they believe that, you know, all that's a hoax. I'm like, well, which one are you going to believe? You can't believe that space travel is a hoax and that aliens exist because you saw them on a live feed from NASA. I mean, that's kind of silly. So, same thing here. People that go to Maria Laveau, the original Maria Laveau, um, they go to her grave, and there's a certain we're going to get into in a minute, but there's a certain thing they do to make wishes and stuff like that. But a lot of them say that Maria didn't die, that she lived on. She reincarnated herself through her daughter or through a fake daughter and just gave her a name. She said that she gave her a name, blah, blah, blah. Well, then why are you going to an empty tomb, you know, or to someone else's tomb? Why would you do that? So, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 there. But the Earth is flat after 7,000 flight hours. I say BS. Yeah, the Earth is definitely not flat. But yeah, they say that the Earth is flat and that Australia doesn't exist. But yeah, there you can go to her grave today and uh, see that she's there. She died in June 16th, 1881. She was 79 years old. She was buried at the St. Louis Cemetery, number 2, New Orleans, Louisiana. Sounds like an address, doesn't it? St. Louis Cemetery, number 2, New Orleans, Louisiana. The reason is because New Orleans, their cemeteries, if they're true New Orleans, if it's not New Orleans, if you hear someone say, you know, we're from New Orleans, they're probably lying to you. Okay, if they say we're from New Orleans, they're probably telling you it's one word. It's not two to them. But the original people from, you know, the real people, the real Cajun Creoles from New Orleans, actually call their cemeteries cities of the dead. And they're not trying to be facetious or, you know, brag on the history of paranormal in New Orleans. But what it is the reason they call them that is because they actually look like small cities. They're huge. I don't know if anyone's ever been there or not. I have. I love New Orleans. I've been to their cemeteries. I used to spend a lot of time there. I've even investigated in a couple of them, which you're not supposed to do. But I didn't know that at the time when I did it. Just let you know. But they call them cities. The reason they call them cities is because all the graves are above ground, of course, because it's New Orleans and it floods and people would erode. There's a lot of places in the South that the graves are above ground because of erosion and stuff. But so they look like little houses. There's street names. There's not roads like we go to a cemetery, here in Central Alabama, and you drive through these roads and you like row 4, section 8, plot 3, or something like that, where you keep track of where your loved one is or whatever. But there's street names throughout their cemeteries, and it looks like small towns, so they call them cities of the dead, because of the size, street names, and plots resembling homes. Maria Laveau, she did keep her voodoo going until 1889. Excuse me, 1899. Well, we'll get into that in just a second. I want to talk about Maria's. Well, no, it goes to that. I'm sorry. Um, Maria Laveau, too, her daughter, kept the voodoo going until either 1899, when she either drowned in 1899 during a flood, or died naturally in 1918. There's 2 different stories on Maria Laveau II, on which is another fuel to the flame of why people believe that she didn't really exist at all. That she was actually Maria Laveau, the first Maria Laveau. But to this day, people do visit Maria Laveau's grave to pay respect and or to seek her guidance and counsel and to make a wish. It's said that if you break off a piece of another grave, not hers, can't break off a piece of Maria Laveau's grave, but you go to someone else's grave, break off a piece of theirs, come back, draw an X on her wall of her mausoleum, I guess you would call it. It's not a huge thing. Mausoleum makes it sound like it's huge, but it's a small house-like structure. But if you go to someone else's grave, somewhere in the cemetery, break off a piece of their stone, go back to Maria's stone, draw an X, knock 3 times and say her name, call her name, and then make a wish. It said that it'll come true. That's why to this day, if you go to St. Louis or St. Louis, their cemetery, and you want to go in New Orleans there, and you want to go in and go to Maria Laveau's grave, or to some of the other people that's out there. There's other famous people out there. If you want to go there, you have to be accompanied by a guide. And a lot of times, the way it was when I went there, you have to pay the guide too. You can't just, there's a fee you have to pay, but you can't be in there by yourself. You can be arrested if you're in there by yourself. So there has to be a guide with you at all times. At that particular, most of the cities of the dead in New Orleans aren't like that, but that one's like that for that reason, because people were going around breaking off pieces of other people's graves so that they could take that stone and draw an X on the Maria Laveau's little house. So, and that's like that even till today. But let's get into Baccio, which is Fawn, which is language. Remember, we spoke about that. Fawn is a language in West Africa. Baccio is empowered figure or powerful cadaver. That was the original voodoo dolls. The reason why we even call them voodoo dolls now, remember I said I was going to get into some of the stuff that the whites kind of screwed up for them and kind of made them change around. Baccio was actually a wood carving of a human-like figure, and it usually came with a couple of bottles attached to it, with twine and pieces of hair and stuff like that. And the bottles would have potions in them, and you would take there was also a piece of leather attached to the wood carving with a little pin in it, a little spike. And you would take that and dip it in the potion, whatever the potion you want. If you want someone to fall in love, you would dip it in that potion. If you want someone to get money, you would dip it into that potion. If you want someone to shut up talking about you, then you would dip it into a certain potion and then put that spike into its mouth. And that was supposed to keep them from running their mouths about you. But baccio was actually usually done by the practitioners, by the priest and the, or they didn't call it priests until it came to Americas, but they were usually done by the kings and queens of Vodo. And they were done usually as self portraits, or if you will, or self carvings, self art. And it was usually to do something for them, to help them. You know, a practitioner, it didn't have to be the king or the queen or a priest or priestess. It could be just a practitioner, you know, just a patronage of Vodo. They could make one of themselves too if they needed, say, if someone was like me and kind of ate a little too much. They, you know, they were disabled with the sin of gluttony. um, and so they wanted to lose weight. So they would make a little figure of themselves. Well, when they fast forward 1800s, whenever they decided, hey, we need to bring these guys over, um, the slaves would have these things. Well, the plantation owners, the whites, were so scared of these little dolls because they said that that's why they made those dolls, was to kill people or to hurt people or make to be, maybe they could even gain their freedom, that they could control somebody or something like that. Well, that wasn't very nice. I'm in a room full of cats tonight, y'all. Sorry about the background noises y'all keep hearing. That was Pebbles knocking my laptop case off the desk because he wanted to sit down. But I'm in a room full of cats. All our cats are in here because they decided that they no longer want to live here. They want to get out. They all want to go outside for some reason. I don't know why. But they've literally tunneled through our house to go outside. They want outside so bad. I don't know why they want outside. They have a perfect life, but I don't know why they want to go, but they do. They want to get out. So they've tunneled through our house to go outside. So we're having to fix different places that they've made. But anyway, that's why I have all the cats. Y'all hear stuff and see the cats walking around. That's why. Anyway, so the plantation owners and the I hate saying that word, the M word. It just it irks me. I hate the word the masters. I call them the ignorance, the deliverance ignorance. But the plantation owners, the whites, but it wasn't only whites; it was blacks too. But the whites were scared of these dolls, so they outlawed not only the dolls, but they outlawed slaves carving anything out of wood, anything. You know, if a slave was caught making a spear, you know, or making a just whittling. Sometimes you didn't have to be. I used to whittle when I was a kid. My grandfather did it. I loved it. I used to sit, you know, next to him and sit there and whittle. You weren't making anything. You just whittle. You just took your knife out, my old timer knife, and just started whittling on a piece of wood. And you know, it was just something to do, a time passer. But it was illegal. They could be put to death for whittling a piece of wood, just carving anything into a piece of wood because of those dolls. They were scared of them. Well, they weren't dolls; they were boccio. Well, so what the slaves did, and if y'all do any studies on slavery and anything like that, anything that the oppressors, the whites, the masters, whatever you want to call them, plantation owners, whatever, anything that they put against them, that they made it an outlaw for them to do, um, the slaves always found a way to do something else. The great example is they used to communicate between each other. You know, like if one farm and another farm, if they were ever brought together for anything, they would talk. They would say, "Hey, you know, tomorrow we're going to make a run for it. We're going to go." You know, well, that eventually got, you know, they eventually figured that out. The whites figured it out. Well, that's where a lot of your the Negro spirituals, the songs came from, because they were actually singing these spiritual songs, but it was actually code to tell people where to go whenever they escape. If you get away from this guy, if you run away from him and you get out, this is what you do. They would follow this song. They would teach everybody this song, and they would sing the song while they're in the fields, telling each other what to do when you escape or how to escape by the codes in the song. So, and they did that with Boccio as well. With Boccio, they come and said, okay, you guys can't have any more. You can't whittle a piece of wood, much less carve anything out of it. So you can't do that anymore. We're afraid of that doing. No, you can't do that no more. So the slaves said, okay, no problem. We won't do that anymore. We will never do that again. So what they started doing was making rag dolls out of linen and old linen and pieces of clothing, and they made it out of straw. They made it out of twigs, whatever. They'd make these little rag dolls, and it just looked like a rag doll they made for one of their kids. That's all it looked like. It was just a rag doll. And so they didn't mind this. The owners didn't mind that. They're like, okay, it's just a rag doll. Who cares? But that was their new Boccio. That was their new symbolization of their culture and their art and their religion. And so that's where Voodoo Doll was born. Instead of Boccio, it was Voodoo Doll, and it was born because they couldn't carve their little wood guys anymore. So they just said, well, we'll make these dolls. Now, some parts of the Congo and Haiti and other places around in the Caribbean did use the whole menacing thing. There's a saying in Vodou that everything is poison, nothing is poison. And what that means is anything that you use for good and use it in a way that is for positive and good, it's good for you. But that same thing can be used for evil, and it can kill you. So nothing is poison, or everything is poison. Nothing is poison. So anything you use for good can be good, but you use that same thing you used for good for evil, and it can kill you. So there's an old scientific saying that everything is poison, nothing is poison. It's the dosage that you take. So, too much milk can kill you. Too much water can kill you, and not enough of those as well. So that's where that came about, and that also plays into the zombification part of this as well, which we're going to talk about in just a second. We did that. We did that. Mm-hmm. Let's do that now. Actually, the zombies in Voodoo were mostly Hollywood. Zombies. That's why I wore my Walking Dead shirt tonight. If y'all didn't figure that out, because of the zombies, because I knew what we were doing tonight. But it was the only thing I could find that was kind of tied into the topic tonight. I said, well, I got a Walking Dead zombie shirt. I'm going to be talking about voodoo. There are zombies in voodoo, so let's do that. Zombies in Vodou were actually possessed people. They weren't zombies at all. Let me, before we get into that, I'm sorry, let me read y'all's. Maybe spirit, who knows? You were talking about there. I did read 3 books last week. You are on point. Oh, thank you, Tom. This is a new saying to add to my list of examples. Hi, Richard. I'm sorry I didn't say hello to you when you come in. I didn't see you. What is a new saying to add to your list of examples? Toby doesn't like cats. I think Toby does like the cats actually, because there'll be 4 of them in the living room when they're not on lockdown. Right now they're all on lockdown. All but one. Oreo. We have one named Oreo that's not on lockdown. She's actually walking the house right now. She lives out where everybody else. I think these cats hate her now because she gets to be out and they can't. But yeah, they're all in trouble, so they're on lockdown. But there'll be like 4 of them in the living room, and they'll look up in one direction. All 4 of them will be looking in one direction and just staring at them. And then they'll all like hiss and stuff. But the poison thing. Oh, okay. I got you. New saying to add to your list of examples. I got you. I see what you're saying now, Richard. Awesome. But let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah, zombies. Uh, voodoo zombies were, or voodoo zombies, if you will, were possessions. And remember, in voodoo or voodoo, it was positive religion. It was a Christian geared towards Catholicism. And yes, I know I don't say that right. I can never say that word right. I say Catholics or caddies because I can never ever say Catholicism. I can never say it. But anyway, in Catholic belief, um, it was geared towards Catholicism. Shut up. And I hear you laughing at me, John. Stop it. I can't actually hear you, but I can hear you all the way from Millbrook to McCalla. Excuse me. But the real zombies, they were actually possessed, but not by demons and not by ghosts. They were actually possessed by the gods. Now remember, voodoo's believed in one entity as the all-powerful, of course, just like Catholics and Protestants and all them, Lutherans, all them. They believed in that one entity. But remember, as I said before, they also believed that every aspect of life had a god to it. Just remember, that's how we segued away from demons, where all the bad stuff had a demon put to it. In voodoo, we jump over to where all the good stuff in life, and some bad things too, I guess, depends on what's receiving end you are on that curse or baccio session. Uh, they had a god to all their good stuff, So the personally, I think zombies is a drug-induced mental state that could allow position. I agree with you, Tom, because we're going to get into exactly what you just said. I'm glad you said that. Tom's always cool whenever we do these things. When we get into these really deep things, he's the man. Him and John are always the two best ones to go with that because they always speak up. But anyway, I see where you're going with that, and I'm going to touch on that. And I agree with you on certain aspects. I do agree with you that it is a mental state, but I don't agree with you that it is always drug induced. It's not always drug induced. Okay. And we're going to get into that right now, the part that's not drug induced, and then we'll go into the part that is drug induced. This is the part I get excited about on Vodo because it's one of my favorite parts. But they would believe that they were possessed by the gods, whatever god that they summoned. They would summon the gods through the drums, which is another thing. Excuse me, the whites outlawed was drum playing. They couldn't play drums at all. So the voodoo actually took a page from the Christian slaves and started doing spirituals to summon gods. Not only spirituals, but they would do their boccio or their voodoo dolls and ceremonies without the whites knowing it. But light and dark, or black or white voodoo, right? Exactly, and that's what I was talking about. There's some forms of Haitian voodoo that did believe in pins through the heart and legs, and you could control someone's fate or health or well-being or life, by what you did with their boccio or their voodoo doll. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, but the possessions that they would go through, especially in their trance states, were not always drug induced or even alcohol induced. As a matter of fact, the West Africans didn't have these. What do you want to call them? They didn't have those type of drugs that could get. Now they did have certain plants and stuff like that, and animals that produced different things, um, which were really cool. When the only ever scientifically recorded zombie ever was done by the Haitian uh, voodoo or Vodou. Um, is in modern times. It was in 1980, but we'll get into that. But anyway, they would get into these trance-like states. Now, when it comes to religion, when someone believes something so powerful and so strong as they do religion and politics, um, y'all know right now in politics, if someone is so far left, there's nothing you can say to them. Nothing you can say to them to make them like the current administration, right? And there's some people so far right that there's nothing you can say to them. They get into this mindset because it's something that is passionate. And that's what we do as human beings. We get into these mindsets that there's a cat messing with the curtain. I was trying to figure out if it was leaning back or forward, because if it was leaning forward, it'll fall on my head. But it's leaning back. So, but they get into this mindset that they actually believe what they believe. They believe their lies, and they believe the truth, and they believe, like there's some people that just believe 100% there's nothing in the world evil that Hillary Clinton can do. That everything she does and everything she did was because she's such an amazing person. Same way with Trump. There's people that believe everything that he does is just great because he's Trump. And there's people that believe that there's nothing in the world that he could do to keep from going to hell, because he's just so horrible. So same way with religion. People can get into religion so hard and so strong in their beliefs that they'll do stuff. If you don't believe me, go to a Pentecostal church service. Just go to a Pentecostal church service. You will see what I'm talking about. All right. Go to an Old South Baptist rattlesnake meeting. You will see what I'm talking about. These people get so far into their beliefs that they will do anything and believe anything, and that they don't have to be drug induced to do some of the stuff that they do. They'll just do it because that's what their religion is, and that's what they believe, and they'll go with it. Look at the people that attacked us on September 11th. They did that because of their religion. These guys got onto a plane, an airplane, an Airbus full of people, cut some folks up, attacked the pilots, took over, and flew those freaking planes into the side of a building, for crying out loud, because of their belief in their religion. So some of these zombie states that the people would get into in Vodou would be not always drug induced. It's just that mindset that they get into that drive them, to that they're this zombie state. They talk themselves into it. All right. Belief is man's deadliest weapon. Thank Richard, you hit that one, buddy. You sure did. That belief is man's deadliest weapon. It sure is, man. If it wasn't for our beliefs, wow. 100%, Richard. You know me too well. All right. Now let's talk about the ones that are drug induced. Right. There are some of those as well. What I was saying earlier about what Tom, I believe it said, I don't remember what we were saying, but someone had brought it up, and I said something about the zombification rituals. But something happened in 1980 in Haiti, which of all the territories in the Caribbean, Haiti is probably the number one Vodou practiced area. It's practiced. It's the number one religion. There's millions and millions and millions of them, of voodoo practitioners there. There's millions. I'm not going to say the number because I can't remember what it was, and I'm going to say it wrong. But anyway, there's a lot in America now too. But even today, and Haiti's probably got the largest population right now. But a man named Clairvice. His name is so hard. Clairvice Narcisse. That's what it is. Clairvice Narcisse. Um, Walked into a village in North Haiti and went to his sister's house and said hi. 1980. The only problem with that situation about him going to his sister's house and saying hi, I'm home, um, was that Clairvice Narcisse actually died 2.5 years before that. Had a death certificate, had a funeral, put him in a coffin, nailed the lid shut. Oh, I know what it was that I said. I You had said something, and I said that hit the nail on the head, Tom, just like with Jacques, because that was the guy. His name was Clairvice Narcisse, but they called him Jacques. And Jacques had a scar down this side. He had what I call the Joker's scar from Batman. He had a scar that went right down just like that. And the reason he had that was because when he was in his coffin and they were nailing it shut, one of the nails went sideways and stuck into his lip right here and went into his jaw there. Obviously, his face was pretty close, but it went in and went down, and he has a scar there, right down there. If he's still alive, I don't know. He was pretty old. He was like maybe in his 60s in 1980, so that's 20 something years, well, 30, 40 years now, 30 something years, almost 40 years ago. So yeah, it was one right down there. But anyway, if he's still alive, he still has a big scar right here. Then that's what happened. They put him in his coffin. He died. And he was in his 60s, so it wasn't, it wasn't a surprise or anything. The family did their whole thing, their mourning, and they had a death certificate made and put him in the coffin, nailed it shut, even went into his face with one of the nails, put him in the ground and buried him, and went on about their lives for 2.5 years until one day in 1980 when uh, Jacques or Clarice came knocking on his sister's door saying, "Hi, I'm home." Uh, Doctors in the area were freaked out. They were like, "There's no way this guy just came home. We know he died." Well, they took fingerprints. The part of the death certificate in Haiti at that time, I don't. It may still be now, but part of it was to put fingerprints of the deceased onto the official document, the official death certificate, and they took those fingerprints from the death certificate, and then they took fingerprints from the new Clarice Narcisse. I can't ever say those names. It's Clarice Narcisse. Better name. I'm gonna call him Jacques from now. That was his nickname. But they took fingerprints from him too, and they said we're not even gonna look at these fingerprints. We're gonna send them straight to Scotland Yard in England and let the forensics look at them. And so they sent them over there, and then Scotland Yard sends them right back and says, yes, they're exact match. These are the same. These two prints came from the exact same person. And so they're like, okay, yeah, he's Clarice Narcisse. He's Jacques. He's the man. Even had a nail, a scar from the coffin nail that went into his face whenever he was tucked down. They asked him, he says, well, what do you remember? And that's what he remembered. He said, I remember everything about the funeral. I heard people talking. They were talking about me. I remember them putting me in the box. I remember them putting the lid on. I remember them nailing the coffin shut. And the last thing I remember was the nail going into my mouth and cutting me. He didn't remember anything after that until a few weeks later when he woke up at a plantation. And there was a voodoo priest that owned the plantation. And for 2 years, 2.5 years, Clarice Narcisse, or Jacques, worked as a slave, a zombie slave for this voodoo priest on his plantation. And he said that there was over 150 other zombies working there as well. So that's the one recorded zombie, living dead case in Bordeaux. It was studied by because it was such a high profile case because the guy was dead and he came back. And they're like trying to figure out how this guy came back to life after 2.5 years. So what they did was is they hired this guy. I can't remember his name. I don't really. I've known this guy. I don't know him personally. I've never met him. I've never even been in the same room or city or state with this guy. Probably country, but I know some of his work. So I don't like him. I'm not going to name him because I don't talk good about him. So I'm not going to name him because that would just be wrong without him being here or being able to see this or whatever. But anyway, um, I don't believe in his views of the paranormal, and he's I really dislike psychics and faith healers, and he's like all about that stuff. So he's just a piece of crap. But anyway, uh, the Scotland Yard forensics department got with Yale University and a couple other universities and a couple scientific teams and everything, and they called this guy and said, "Hey, we want you to go to Africa, and we want you to find out if there's a possibility of any type of drug that brought this guy back to life after 2.5 years." So he goes. Well, he's supposed to go over there and search this and check it out and figure out what's going on, what kind of drugs that this guy could have been given to bring him back to life and all this stuff. Um, and he finds out that there's no drugs in Africa that will bring people back to life, but there is a drug in Africa, in Haiti, actually, not Africa, but in Haiti, that is very well known by the Japanese, and it's also indigenous to Haiti um, and several other places. You guys will know it when I say it, but it actually can put someone into a zombie-like state to where the type of the limited medical capabilities they had in 1970, what, eight, when he died, um, and the equipment that they had in Haiti, North Haiti at that time, they could fool them. They could fool doctors just checking pulses and checking vitals and looking at the bodies and stuff like that, and the limited type of equipment that they had in those days in 1979 and or 78, 79. Um, there was a drug that could fool all of that, and it's called uh, tetradorsin. Now, tetradorsin, if people don't know this, if you do, I'm not going to say it because some people do know. And I want to see if anyone here does know. Where does tetradorsin come from? I think I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, tetradorsin, tetrodotoxin. I'm sorry, it's tetrodotoxin. See, I'll put my glasses on. I can see it. It's tetrodotoxin. I knew of this drug, but I didn't know what it was called until I did the research for this show, and it's called tetrodotoxin. Does anyone know where that comes from? You guys said. Drug or extreme mental about the same. Yeah, right. The zombie children offering cups of coffee to people then turned into zombie themselves. Yeah, from drugs. Hoodoo versus voodoo. Yeah. Grown men running up and down the sanctuary on the backs of the pews. Yeah, absolutely. People do that stuff for their religion. People are stupid given the proper motivation. People believe a lie because they want it to be true or they fear it to be true. It is true. Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. Y'all see what I'm saying? Tom and John are always the deep thinkers. I think other people are deep thinkers. They're just shy. They don't want to talk. Except for Richard. Richard's been pretty cool since he started too. So I guess from you guys' silence, no one knows where tetrodotoxin comes from. It's one of the most. Andy, I do. Hello, Andy. I haven't seen you on here. Welcome. Where does tetrodotoxin come from, Andy? I'll give you guys a hint. It's one of the most poisonous to humans. It's one of the most poisonous substances out there. A lethal dose for a human would be enough to set on the head of a pin. Just that little amount on the head of a pin is enough to kill a human. Andy, where does it come from? You said you knew. Japanese cultist. Not necessarily. It has to be a neurotoxin, probably an animal venom. Thank you. You took what I said, the signs and symptoms, right, from what Jacques went through and determined that. They're very good. Locked-in syndrome. Yeah. You. That's very good, Richard. You took what I said from what Clairvius Narcisse or Jacques, what his symptoms were, and you did the sodium channel blocked stops neurofiring. Sodium channel blocked stops neurofiring. Exactly, and that's what it does. It's tetrodotoxin, and it actually comes from. You guys are going to freak when I say that. You're going to say, "Oh yeah, I knew that." It actually comes from the puffer fish. The puffer fish. You know, the little fish is kind of flat. And he just kind of goes like this until he gets scared or something happens, and he goes. Poof. He blows up huge. But that's where he comes from. A single dose that would fit on the side, the head of a pin, could kill a human being in moments. But given in the right dose and in the right situation and all that, would put the person into a zombie-like state to where non-conventional, primitive medical would not be able to detect that they're still alive. But that's what they suspect happened to Jacques, is that he was given tetrodotoxin, and as well as the other people that were the slaves on the plantation there in Haiti, and they were brought out. You know, they're dug up from their graves and taken back out. You know, taken out of the graves and taken to the plantation. So that's what they think happened to him. And y'all, I know it's getting kind of late, but we've only got one more section to talk about tonight. There's more I want to kind of get into on voodoo, but I'm not going to do it tonight. But because it keeps going on. Remember, it keeps going on and on and on and on. But there's just one more section, and that's sacrifices that I want to get into. But the pufferfish is actually a delicacy, a gourmet delicacy in Japan, but you have to be licensed and trained, specially trained to be able to prepare it. You know, any chef just can't go get a pufferfish and fix it because it would kill people. One bite would kill them if it's not prepared correctly. And you have to be trained and certified to do that in Japan. Back in the day, Japan even had a tradition that if someone died because stepping on a pufferfish or being stung by a pufferfish, and they died, they actually wouldn't bury them for at least 72 hours. For 3 days, that body would lay next to the grave, and then they would come back 3 days, 72 hours later and look. If it's still dead, then they would bury it. But if it was the sheep was just there and they were gone, or if the person was alive now and starting to come around, they would pick them up, take them to the doctor, and say, blah blah blah, let's fix them up. They're not dead. So that happens. Back in the day, it doesn't happen now. Now they can tell if they're actually alive or whatever. But back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the primitive medical capabilities in Haiti, especially West Haiti, was North Haiti was pretty bad. So yeah, they couldn't tell that Jacques was actually alive in 1978 when he died. So in 1980 when he came back, everybody's hollering zombie, zombie, zombie. So that's where the zombies play into to Vodo, which is the mental transformation from religion to reality, and then from drug induced. Some forms of voodoo, which is the American version, of course, still or do use other types of drugs like alcohol and um, hallucinogens and stuff like that. So you never know what they're gonna use, but it's not zombies like demons and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, you have, Tom. That's cool. You're very brave. I may or may not have extracted DMT from the tree bark imported from the Amazon basin. May or may not have. You can't deny or confirm. Blowfish, yeah, it's the same thing. Blowfish, but it's actually called the puffer fish. But yeah, blowfish is some people do call it the blowfish. But yeah, it's puffer fish. What was the strangest, most paranormal thing that ever happened to you? One night, Andy, that's a good question. One night I was doing a show, and our topic was voodoo, and somebody asked me, "What's the strangest paranormal thing that ever happened to you?" I still, oh, that still gets me. I'm glad it doesn't happen anymore. So, anyway, just messing with you. Uh, strangest, y'all. He's new, so we're gonna break away and we'll go to that. Let's say the strangest, most paranormal thing that ever happened to you. That's been asked so many times, and I always have a different answer, probably. But strangest, most paranormal thing that's ever happened. Um, it's either when I had my experience with what I perceived to be a Sasquatch. I'm not convinced that that's what it was. Or the first time that I seen a demon, or the first and only time in my life that I actually communicated with a ghost. So it's one of those three. All right, sacrifice. Here's where the hypocrisy of religion really slaps Vodo and Voodoo in the mouth. I mean, just clocks them one. Um, Voodoo is a religion of sacrifice. They do believe in making sacrifices to their gods. Um, but what gets me about it is uh, Christianity, including Catholicism and all of them, uh, looks at voodoo as being so very evil because they'll cut the neck of a chicken and fling it around. Um, let me get my other notes ready because I'm definitely going to get upset on this one. Um, they would cut chickens' throats and like swing them around and around and around, and blood would go everywhere. And the Bible. I saw it over here. That's why I said that. Man, I'm starting to like close up for some reason. Um, but they would. I'm just going to have to. I can't do two things at once. I'm not multi-talented, so I'm just going to have to remember it on my own. I can't remember the right verses, but anyway, and they would cut chickens' throats and sling them around. They would chop the heads off of goats, or slice open the entrails of pigs and goats and monkeys, and different birds and bats and stuff like that. So they would do this stuff in the name of sacrifice to their gods. And of course, Christianity said that is so evil that you do this. You keep all these skulls and these bones from the dead, and you sacrifice animals, and you have altars with blood, and you do this and you do this, and all this stuff that you do is just so evil, and you must be an evil religion, and we must ban against you, and you're horrible. How many sacrifices were made in the Bible? Google that, somebody. Find out how many sacrifices were. God almost had Abraham slice his own son up on an altar, for crying out loud. Wasn't it Abraham? And that's the verse I couldn't remember. If anybody knows that, pop it up there. But yeah, he sent an angel down and says, hey, if you really love God, we want you to sacrifice your son, your firstborn son. Abraham's like, oh, I love him that much. I'll do it. I don't really want to kill my son, but I love God. So he brought his son out. Back to his son. Brought him out, put him on the altar, and took out his knife. And when they say knife, it's really a sword. He takes out this long freaking machete-like knife, and he's got it up like this and is fixing to come down, start slicing Junior up. And an angel comes and says, wait, we're just kidding. We just wanted to see if you would do it. And it's true. It's what it happened. It's in the Bible. They just said, we just want to see if you would actually do it. We wanted to see if you loved God enough to kill one of your kids, to do this. And he's like, what the crap? And then a ram came up behind him. He heard something. He turned and looked, and there was a ram. So he took the ram and put it on the altar in place of his son, and then sliced the ram and killed him in sacrifice to God. He burned him. He burnt the ram too. He burned him as a burnt offering. And what do you guys write? And yeah, they will eat cracker that is supposed to be flesh, and wine that is supposed to be blood. Exactly, Richard. Do this in remembrance of me. Yeah. This is my flesh, and this is my blood. Yeah. Tetrodotoxin. Yeah. Belief and intent through logical, rational detection is what bounds reality into what has or hasn't happened. Sometimes voodoo works. The chicken intros tell the future. Well, I don't personally believe that, but I do like voodoo, so I'm not knocking it, but I don't believe their entrails of a chicken can predict anything. But I see where you're going with that. So yeah. Ever been to a Baptist barbecue? Who killed the pig? Yeah. Well, look how many chickens we kill a day. So we can have fried chicken, and all that stuff. But anyway, so what they did was they actually made it illegal, or they tried to make it illegal. But for this time, this was only in the 70s or 80s in New Orleans. The Catholic Church went and said, look, they can't do this. They're killing freaking chickens. And, the Catholic Church is all powerful, especially in the South. And so they go and they say, you can't do this. You can't kill chickens. I'm sorry, we're going to outlaw this. Well, this time voodoo didn't just try to come up with something else. Hey, where are you? What's wrong? I don't see her. I'm sorry. She's still crying. She won't stop. I'll find her. But yeah, they won't out, but we can't let them out because they're being punished. And if we let them out, they'll go outside and they can't defend themselves. So we can't do that. But anyway, I lost my train of thought because of the cat. Oh yeah, they come up and they said, you can't do this. You can't kill animals. You can't sacrifice animals. Even though it's been going on since the dawn of man, we've been sacrificing animals since then. God sacrificed the very first animal, which was the serpent, right? He told him from now on, which I think was bad. I'm not questioning God, but I still don't get why the snake got punished, because the snake did not raise his hand to Satan and say, hey, pick me, pick me, pick me. Satan came as a serpent and tempted Eve, and that's why they ate the fruit. And so God told the serpent, you will forever crawl on your belly, and dust will you eat until the end of your days. Wasn't the snake's fault? that was just kind of wrong, man. The snake didn't do anything. It's not his fault. Satan chose him, his likeness. That wasn't his fault. But anyway, he sacrificed him. God said, no, you shouldn't have been, Satan shouldn't have chose you as the animal to tempt Eve. It doesn't say that it was an apple. It just says a fruit. That's all it says. It could have been anything, but it did say serpent. It definitely said it was a snake. So they sacrifice all through the Bible, all through religion. There's been sacrifices since the dawn of man. There's been sacrifices and sacrifices and sacrifices. And so whenever voodoo decided they wanted to do it, just because they hung a few skulls up, well, all of a sudden they're automatically evil. So they said you can't do that. Well, this time, instead of voodoo coming up with a spiritual song or making a doll or finding some other way to go around it, they're like, you know what? We're not taking this anymore. You bullied us all these years since there were slaves, and you bullied us and bullied us and bullied us, but we're not taking it anymore. Let's go to court. And so voodoo went to court. They took it to court. And the Supreme Court, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, it's freedom of religion. We're sorry. If they want to cut a chicken's head off or open up a goat's entrails, there's nothing you can do about it. So you just got to get over it. And that's basically what the Supreme Court said. It's freedom of religion. The Bible is packed full of sacrifices. It was good for you then. They still do it. Okay, get over it. So, but the Bible is also full of hypocrisy. So, sorry about that. I kicked the table. But what am I missing here? Let's see. Beliefs are strong, mankind, and something we could use to control others. Yeah, amen, Richard. Richard Westfall is correct. Also, check out the Nag Hammadi, better known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, Genesis is written from the snake's perspective. Oh, I've never done that. I have to check that out. I'll definitely check that out. John. Thank you. I mean, Andy. I don't know why I said John. You'll puke. I will certainly check that out. Absolutely. Did y'all hear that? My wife is home and she just said God. Don't know why. I just hope it's not me. I hope I didn't do anything. But yeah, they do sacrifices. They use the snake as a because Christianity uses a snake as a symbol of evil. Then they say that voodooism is definitely evil because they use the snake as a symbol of reverence. The two snakes entwined are symbols of the human man and human woman energies entwining. The snake is the symbol of reproduction. It's the symbol of continued life. And then the two snakes together is the symbol of intertwined energies of the male and female, human male and female. So, so sacrifices are made, and they're made on altars. They're made for many different reasons, whether it be now the part of voodooism that is not part of Voodoo, of course, is the dolls with the pins and hurting people. That's not traditional Voodoo. and the part of taking the money, which the most famous voodoo queen ever, Marie Laveau, actually started the whole money thing. She started taking money because she had to eat. You know, she had kids and a husband that nobody knew what happened to. Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So I think we all know what happened to the husband. I think he smacked Marie. I think they got into an argument, and she probably said something. Back then, the woman had to submit. You know, she didn't have a choice. She had to submit. Well, Marie was not a submitting woman. She was a Creole. Creole women are crazy. Okay, Creole means crazy. Crazy woman. So I think she's probably smarted off to old. What was his name? Paris, Jacques Paris. I can't remember. I don't remember his name. I think it was Jacques Paris. I know his last name was Paris, um, but I don't remember his last name. I mean, his first name. I think it was Jacques. Yeah, but anyway, I think that's what happened. I think Jacques, whatever it is, Jacques, whatever. I think he, uh, thank you. Well, I can't see it. Hold on. I'm pretty sure his last name was Patty, but I will check on that just to make sure. I never uh, say I'm right, you're wrong. No lie. No. Okay. Okay. Calm down. I ain't say you wrong. I just said that's what I thought. I will check on it. June 20th. Arcanist known as parasites. Obsessed over him. I actually have heard of that. I know him in real life. Works for Bigelow Aerospace. Oh, you're talking about someone else, not her husband, right? I'm sorry. I don't know where you're going. Works for Bigelow Aerospace. I have no idea who you're talking about now. But anyway, I think that's what happened with Marie. I keep calling her Maria. I won't never go to her grave and call her that. But I've been to her grave. I don't think I called her Maria. But if I think that's what happened. I think she probably said something that upset him, and him being the man, he probably gave her a smack, and because he gave her that smack, he went missing. Don't nobody know where. Marie Laveau was not the type of person you smack around. So I think that's what happened on that. I really do. But I could be wrong. He could have fell in a swamp somewhere or something like that. Who knows? Right? All right. Oh, don't say my bad. I wouldn't say anything bad, Andy. I was just saying I don't understand where you was going with that. Who works for Bigelow Aerospace? That's who I was asking. But if I know what's happening now, this cat's getting in the vent. He can't get back out. There. Can now. Um, anyway, there are so many more chapters I want to go into with this discussion. We've been on for over 2 hours tonight. I am getting tired. I still have other paperwork to do for my actual job, and I've got some more research that I want to do on this topic before next week. What I would like to do is bring a part two of voodoo, part two, so that we can do that voodoo that we do so well. I remember that. But extra new subject, extra re. No idea where you're going with that. Tom's had a little bit to drink. Terrestrials. I don't know if we want to talk about extraterrestrials, but yeah. But we want to finish the voodoo first. So next week we're going to go into the second part of voodoo. There's still so much to talk about with their uh, wars that are tied to them, the political side of and the impact on voodoo, and the voodoo impact on political politicians or politics, and the politics impact on voodoo. Um, Practitioners, then and now, and I think there was one. I think there's four parts left to it, so I'm definitely going to go back into that next week. And great subject. Thanks so much. You're welcome, Tom. Thank you for coming up with it. I think it was an awesome subject. But we're going to go ahead and close for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. Did anybody? I'm sorry. Every night, every show, I always ask, does anybody have any more questions that I did not answer? Because a lot of times, whenever we have a show that people know we're going to do a subject, they'll get questions to ask. And if they don't, sometimes they won't get them. Get them in time. So if there's any questions, please let me know. Remind me of the babe. No idea. The babe with the power. All right. Obviously, there is no more questions, so we will go ahead and close for tonight. Thank you guys again for sticking in there with us tonight. I think it was an awesome topic. We're going to talk more on this subject next week, and then we may finish it up next week and then get into something else. So I'll look into that and see where we can go with that. Not a whole bunch to do on ufology, Tom, as far as because all we can do is just look at same old tired evidence. Although there are starting to be some things that are coming out now, like the United States government has actually come out and said that not only is the existence of extraterrestrials probable, but imminent. So they're saying that it's definitely there most likely is extraterrestrials, and it is imminent. So they're saying there's definitely going to come a time when we know that there are, which I think we're going to get that pretty soon. But anyway, I just don't think it's going to be everything that's said to be. So y'all keep an eye on that. But anyway, we're not getting into conspiracy theories tonight. So thank you guys for joining me. As always, it was an awesome time. I really love this subject matter, so we're going to continue it next week with this part two of voodoo, where we go more into the modern day and politics and stuff like that. So we will see you guys next week. As always, I love every one of you. I want you to have a very safe, a very blessed paranormal week. All right? Good night.